What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to Gaming 101 with Mr.Berger. Now tonight I'm going to do a little bit of a different kind of video than ones that I've been doing recently, wherein I kind of showcase decks. This is a video that I've been really excited about doing. It's much more of an informational kind of video, but anyway, let's get a replay rolling while I talk to you about it. So what I'm going to do tonight is basically talk about some various resources that will help you out to become a better player at Clash Royale, as well as some other games that I play, specifically Blizzard games like Hearthstone or Diablo III. I'm also playing Heroes of the Storm. I've played a lot of World of Warcraft, but I'm going to talk about those other two games today. So I like to think of using online resources like, websites and YouTube videos as like a kind of tool, right? And we've been using tools since the dawn of time, since the dawn of man. Even monkeys, certain species of monkeys use tools in a way. They use sticks to poke little holes in the ground, or poke into little holes in the ground and pull out ants, get themselves some snacks. Some of them even use stone tools. I read in a recent review or in a recent study that certain species of macaques use stone tools to help them out with certain tasks. So if they can do that, we can certainly use our tools. So if you think of these online resources as a kind of tool, that might help you kind of better understand why you would want to use these things and how they can help you become a better player. Because we use these tools to do tasks more easily or to do tasks better. I mean, think of just about any technological advancement. A classic example is the microwave. Everybody loves their microwave, right? Well, I prefer an oven. It takes a lot longer, but it cooks it a little bit more nicely. But let's say that you're in a hurry. A microwave can do in about 3 minutes what an oven can do in, 30 minutes or an hour. So microwave is a great tool, a great invention that's helped out mankind with a particular task. So we've been using these kinds of tools, if you think of it, ever since man and woman started. So why not use them now to do something that you enjoy, which is playing Clash Royale? I didn't want to use them at first. I didn't want to use strategy guides when I was a kid because of some sort of a pride thing. Maybe it was just kind of like an impatience thing. I remember specifically, like, my brother used to subscribe to, the Nintendo magazine, a lot of gaming magazines, and he would look up strategy guides online, and he would clear games out, like, to their fullest potential, get all the secrets, unlock all the games, or the whole game, beat the whole thing, and I didn't have the patience. I mean, kudos to him. I think it's really cool that he was able to do that, but I just didn't have the patience as a little kid. I was the younger brother, too. So I would kind of want to figure games out on my own. I wouldn't worry too much about the secrets. But as I got a little bit older and played a little more complex games, I started to use some strategy guides and stuff to help me out, particularly with areas that I couldn't quite figure out. If you think of like a Zelda game, I remember playing certain Legend of Zelda games, getting stuck on certain particular bosses that were really hard, giving me a lot of difficulty. So I ended up kind of like, okay, rather than get frustrated with this puzzle or whatever it might be that's giving me trouble, why don't I just go ahead and look up a strategy guide and do something to help me out here. So I would look up strategy guides, get through that one particular puzzle that was giving me trouble, and move on from it and figure out the rest on my own. And that kind of taught me that there's an advantage to using these resources that other people have, presented to help you out. And I don't know, some people might think of it as like, oh, it's kind of like cheating, right? You're looking up how to beat the boss or whatever. But at the same time, it's not really cheating, because you're still having to do the task. You're just looking for tips. You're looking for some advice from somebody that's already done it and, has this particular strategy that they think might help you out. So we can use these resources to help us become better Clash Royale players. And, if you've made it here to my YouTube channel, unless you're one of my students that's just kind of checking this out, then you probably are interested in using online resources to help you become a better player at this game. So what I want to do tonight is I want to talk about some of these resources that I use that I found to be very helpful. I think that they could be helpful to you, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or even an advanced player. Although advanced players may have probably heard of quite a few of these resources already. Let's go ahead and tear through this replay here. So what I'm going to talk about is a couple websites that will help you out with Clash Royale Then I'm going to talk about a few of my favorite YouTubers, describe them, how they're beneficial to you and to you becoming a better player, Clash Royale YouTubers. Then, of course, I will transition into a couple of my favorite websites that will help you out with Hearthstone and with Diablo 3 and other Blizzard games as well. Lastly, I'll talk about one of my favorite Diablo 3 YouTubers, just as a kind of example in there. Now, let's go ahead and get started. My favorite Clash Royale website is this one right here, deckshop.pro. Now, it's not deckshop.com, it's deckshop.pro. You can look at it right up there, right? Okay, so how do you use this website? Well, first of all, this website is put up mostly by OJ. He does YouTube videos as well, and I'll be talking about him a little bit later. He does great videos. He definitely knows his stuff. He's probably part of a pretty good and knowledgeable team, so it's definitely reputable. So what this deck or this website does is shows you a bunch of different decks that you can use. It also highlights particular challenges. So let me go ahead and talk about a few of the features. Now keep in mind that some of these decks might be outdated because they might be from previous older metas, but a lot of them are very reliable. So let's start with this deck picker feature. If you look here at the top tab, you can highlight the deck picker feature. This thing is great. So first thing you do is, well, let me start over because I had this open earlier. You choose your arena. I'm going to do Arena 12 because I'm in Arena 12 right now. Now, cards you don't have or don't want to use. Now, I don't like using this feature too much because what it does is it excludes cards, and you might have a great deck that you have 7 of 8 cards available for, but you won't be able to see it because of that 8th card not being available or because you excluded it. Let's say that you see a deck and it has like, oh, I don't know, a Night Witch or an E-Wiz or something in there, and you don't have that card, so you exclude that E-Wiz, right? So let's exclude the E-Wiz. We select it there and it pops up right there. Now if there's any decks that are running E-Wiz and I have 7 of the 8 other cards, then I won't see those decks. And that might be a good thing because you don't have E-Wiz. That's what you want, right? But you might have an awesome deck that you missed and you could just replace that E-Wiz with, like, I don't know, a Musketeer or something, right? So I don't like this feature too much, but it can be beneficial, especially if you're in lower arena and there's a ton of cards that you don't have. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Let's not do any cards. I deselected the E-Wiz. Now this is a more beneficial part. It's cards that you do want in the deck. Let's look at a classic example, which would be the Log Bait. I'm going to go ahead and do Goblin Barrel right there because that's a staple, a very important part of the Log Bait deck. Then we're going to do Princess because she's another fundamental part of the Log Bait deck. Show me the decks. Look at all these cool decks. Modern Log Bait, the Bait with Tornado, that's the classic Log Bait, but with Tornado in the place of Inferno Tower. The problem is there's so many of them, I don't know what to choose. So let's get a little bit more specific. Let's put in a third card. I put in the Dart Goblin because I like him and he's cool in bait decks too. Now there's about 8 different decks that you could run, right? So that's a really cool feature. I'd highly recommend using it. There's another awesome feature on this website, which would be the Deck Checker. Alright, so what we do here is we basically set up our deck that we're running, and it gives us like tips and weaknesses and advantages and maybe even card replacements too. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look. So I put Arena 12 because, of course, like I said, I'm in Arena 12. Now let's do like the classic Hog Cycle deck because that's a pretty well-known one. So we get a couple cycle cards to begin with. We put the Hog in there. We put the Musketeer in there. Let's run, instead of Zap, let's run Log, because that's the kind of the classic one with Fireball. And then let's put a Tornado in there for our defensive structure instead of Cannon. What am I missing, guys? What's the last card for Hog Cycle deck? Oh, it's the Mini Tank, isn't it? So I like to run Knight rather than, the Ice Golem for my Mini Tank. Whoops, that was the cards I don't have. Uh-oh, better deselect all of those. Why don't we just start over? Arena 12. Cards I don't have, well, let's continue from there, and let's reselect everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, that right there. Got to get the Log. Alright, I need my knight. And what else am I missing? Fireball. Okay, check my deck. Okay, deck defensive potential. It says it's great, right? That's awesome. It'll give you a little bit more info if you want. Oh, that gives you a ton of info right there. So if you really want to look into that, I'm sure it's very helpful. But this is kind of the screen that I've been using. I also use this to like set up decks and take nice screenshots. That's what I use to put those into my OBS layout, my layout when I showcase particular decks. So it also says this deck is in our database, so you could look into more details there. That means it's one of the decks that'll show up if you look for those particular cards. It's not just like a random deck that I threw together that they don't have in their database. Alright, it tells us about the offensive potential, some counters, some synergies. Also gives us some cards that could give us trouble. The two of the newest legendaries, the Royal Ghost and the Mega Knight, could be problematic to this deck. Some info about it. No buildings. That's helpful to know. Okay, so this is a great, awesome website. The last cool feature about it, if we go back to Deck Shop's homepage, we've got the YouTuber challenge. What is that? Well, that's the most recent challenge that's going to be coming up soon. And he's showcasing a bunch of the decks. So we can look at these cool decks that are going to be coming up in the challenge. So you can tell that this guy definitely knows his stuff, right? And, you know, he's reputable, and he's up to date, and he's taking this thing seriously. It's probably a team of people. I imagine it's not just the one guy. So the last feature, as I mentioned, is the challenge overview. So if you look at guides on this guide tab, it gives you a few basic guides. It also has tips for all of the challenges. As you've seen in the past, we've had Ramp Up, Triple Elixir, Sudden Death, Royal Ghost Mirror Challenge. All the challenges, basically, that we've had recently, he gives you tips on them. So it's a great website. I highly recommend using it. Deckshop.pro. You can look at it up there, or just Google it. I'm sure you can find it quite easily. The next website that I would like to showcase is Stats Royale. Now, Stats Royale is another awesome website for Clash Royale. I also highly recommend this website. This thing, it's kind of similar to Deck Shop, but it's got a lot more detail as far as specific stats for cards and decks go. So if you scroll down on the home page here, you can see popular cards. You can see it tracks the last 5 days of change in Zap, which is one of the most, if not the most popular card right now. You can see recently, yesterday on the 29th, it spiked up, and there's a lot more people using Zap. It shows you some popular decks, the win rates, how many games it tracked to prove those win rates, average crowns per game, so on and so forth. It's got a cool deck builder down here, similar to the one that I just showed you in the Deck Shop website. Let's look at a few of the tabs at the top here. Let's look at the deck builder. I'll just run through a quick example. It's pretty similar to the last website that we used. In this one, the layout's a little bit different. Let's pick, how about Hog, right? And what else is fun with Hog? Why don't we do eWiz? Oh no, get rid of that eWiz. I know what I want to do. I want to do Ice-Wiz, because I really like Hog Ice Wizard decks. It gives you some ladder deck suggestions. Notice that all the Ice Wizard decks are running Tornado because of that amazing synergy. It shows you the win rates of these decks. See that these are only based on 115, 85, and 70 games, whereas that other one that we were looking at was like, I know it was like over 20,000 games or something crazy like that, right? So it's not always 100% reliable, but it's definitely very helpful. Now, if you see on the right side here, you can actually click that little thing right there or tap it in your screen, and that'll export the deck. I'm not going to go ahead and do it on my PC because it doesn't work exactly too well with BlueStacks, which is what I'm using to run my Clash Royale. But if you're running this on your phone, all you got to do is tap that little arrow from either of these websites. You can do it on Deck Shop too, right? You can click play and it'll open it up right there. It'll open it up in your Clash Royale and it'll import it into your game, and you can set it as one of your 5 decks. So that's very helpful. This thing also has a few other cool features. It's got some guides you could look at. It's got top lists. This is one of the best features. It shows the most popular cards, the win rate percentage. So Zap has almost 60% win rate because it's used very widely. It's the most used card, 47%. You can see in the past day, just a day, its usage rate went way up. So you can kind of look at all these bar graphs, all these cool stats. It shows you specific stats. It also shows you popular decks. You can do it by most popularity. and this is based on 21,000 games, as I was talking about earlier. This is the classic log bait right here. A little bit outdated. Here's log bait with tornado, a little bit more up to date. Anyway, these are based on a lot more games, so it's a little bit more reliable. Last thing you can do is sort by win percent. So right now, based on only 980 games, significantly less, but it's probably more recent. That being said, it's probably in the last patch. This is apparently the top win percent deck. This Hog 3 Musketeer Pump deck. Looks like a little bit cycly, a little bit baity too. Alrighty, so that is Deck Shop, and that is Stats. Clash Royale, statsroyale.com. Let me make that more clear. The website URL is statsroyale.com. Okay, guys, so that is it for the website resources for Clash Royale. I now want to talk a little bit about some of my favorite YouTubers. Alright, so this guy right here, Clash with Ash. His real name's Tim, but he goes by Ash. You've probably heard me talk about him before. I really like him. I saw him because he popped up in the little news section of Clash Royale. In your main battle tab, there's always a little news tab kind of in the center right side of the screen. And you know, I really liked his presentation. He's definitely very helpful. He gives more advanced tips, but he also gives beginner tips. He caters to all ages, so you definitely get a tint of the younger crowd. You know, that being said, he's family friendly. He doesn't cuss, and that's kind of what I'm going for too, because I want this channel to be accessible to the younger crowd as well. So I highly recommend this guy. He's super helpful. He has great presentation. He's very well spoken. He takes this thing seriously. He gets on all these pros. They showcase decks. He interviews them. It's just great. He shows, you know, here's his recent videos. Let's take a quick look. So he kind of does similar to what I do. You know, he sits down there and talks about the decks that he's showcasing. You know, he does some Q&As. He's showcasing the Lava Hound deck, this Lumberjack Hog deck, similar to one that I did recently, so on and so forth. So check this guy out. He's super helpful. I highly recommend him. He's my first choice if you're going to check somebody out on YouTube. Now, if you're looking for kind of a tint of comedy, this guy, Olong Johnson, which is, yes, it's a pun on the famous YouTube video of the cat going, Olong Johnson, and you can YouTube that. It's one of the, you know, the classic viral videos. In fact, that's his little logo right there is the cat, and the sound is the intro to each of his videos. He's hilarious. He's got a lot more subscribers. He's got 1.5 million subscribers, almost, and he basically does, you know, like funny moments, glitches, and he just edits in all these funky, different effects and sound effects from video games and movies, and it's really funny. It's very well put together. He only does about a video a week or so, whereas Ash does 1 or 2 every day. But I highly recommend him if you're looking for kind of a funny twist on a game that you love. Check him out. Olong Johnson on Clash Royale on YouTube. The next guy that I want to talk about is Nick at Night. Now, you guys have probably heard of this guy if you've looked up Clash Royale YouTubers because he's extremely popular. He's got over 2.5 million subscribers. So he's pretty good. I'm not subscribed to him personally. I don't have anything against him. I have definitely watched some of his videos. He's great. He's helpful. He's really funny too. He's not as polite as Ash. It's a little bit more, from what I've seen, it's a little bit more like just kind of playing and, you know, cracking jokes and having a good time. And he does a great job at it. Whereas Clash with Ash is a lot more focused on, you know, like pro tips and beginner tips and things like that. So check this guy out. He's funny. He does all kinds of different things. I haven't watched his stuff in a while, but I'm sure it will not, what's the word? Disappoint. That's the word I'm looking for. All right. After Nick. Oh, there he is. Hopefully I don't, am I going to get in trouble for copyright infringement here? I hope not, because I'm just telling you to go check out his channel. I'm promoting him, right? Okay, next guy over here is OJ Orange Juice. He's a little bit different. I don't like his presentation just as much. I'm not saying I don't like his presentation. I just don't like it as much as some of the other YouTubers that I've seen. That being said, he's very helpful. He gives great videos with great advice. It looks like he's been playing other games as well. But like this 3 times elixir challenge video, it looks like it's a fail. So he does all kinds of different Clash Royale videos. But what I really like from him is he'll showcase a lot of card interactions. Like I remember one of the first videos that I saw from him was the Dart Goblin video, and it just showcased the Dart Goblin. Maybe I can find it. It showcased the Dart Goblin interactions. Yeah, how to use Dart Goblin. 1.6 million views a year ago. And it showcased like all the different interactions that it had with all the different cards in the deck. And he talked about a lot of major ones and basically showcased some of the minor ones. Okay. He's very popular, very well put together videos. He gives excellent examples and he breaks stuff down very well. He speaks well, but he's not quite as like lively and active as Ash is, and that's kind of the main thing that draws me to that channel is his overall presentation and his thoroughness, and the fact that he brings on all kinds of different people and things like that. Alright, next guy that I want to talk about is this guy right here, Ernie C3. I'm not subscribed to him. I've just seen 1 or 2 of his videos. It's kind of like my last Clash Royale YouTuber that I want to talk about here. I'm not too into him, but that being said, he does have some very useful videos. The last one that he posted was just some buggy, glitchy thing. I don't know what he's trying to do. But anyway, he's got like a lot of, what he does is these 15 quick tips in, like a minute or a minute and a half or 2 minutes. So it's very condensed. It's very, short. So basically the exact opposite of me, whereas I like to talk a whole bunch. And it gives you a bunch of awesome tips really quickly, a lot of card interactions and ways that you can use cards. I remember the Knight one has 428,000 views, which is good for him, That one's very helpful. I found that one to be very beneficial. And it's just some minor things, just like, oh, if you place the Knight in the middle of your side of the arena, he'll fully counter a naked giant skeleton. And it's a little bit obvious, but it's still helpful to know, especially if you're a beginner player. I would definitely recommend checking out some of these card interaction videos. They're very brief, easy to get into. Alright guys, so that does it, or that is it, that does it, either one works, for Clash Royale stuff. So if you only are on this channel for Clash Royale, then you can go ahead and tune out now. But if you're interested in seeing some resources for some Blizzard games, particularly Hearthstone and Diablo III, then stay tuned. So the next website that I want to showcase is Hearthstone. No, I want to do icy-veins first, actually. Alright, so the next one that I want to do here is icy-veins. Icy-veins is a great website. It helps you out with all different kinds of Blizzard games. You can see the tabs up here, right? You got all the current Blizzard games. I've been playing a lot of Hearthstone, so let's do that just for an example. Once you click on a Blizzard game, it shows you a bunch of different tabs. You've got wild decks, archetypes, arena, esports, so on and so forth. Recently, I've been doing the dungeon runs a lot. I'd love to do a video showcase on that, or a showcase video rather on that. I probably will do one in the near future. What you can do here is, let's look at like Hunter, because I love Hunter, right? So you go to Dungeon Run, you click Hunter, it opens up this whole tab. It tells you the starting Hunter cards, tells you all the treasures, gives you the author's particular rating on it. So he says Bag of Stuffing, Boots of Haste, Portable Forge, and Wondrous Wand are the best options for treasure cards, if you can get them. It tells you some good ones, and it tells you why. Well, let's see. Let's find the Death Rattle one, so I'm going to use Control F. So, oops. Okay, these are the passive treasures. So there's 2 categories now. That's right. There's the active treasures up here, and there's the passive treasures down here. The Death Rattle one, it says, is good. Totem of the Dead is a natural fit due to Hunter having access to some of the most powerful Death Rattle minions in the game. So it tells you why it's good. It also says Crystal Gem is excellent because it provides a strong boost in early game tempo, allowing you to explode onto the board faster, which is great for any deck, particularly for Hunters, because Hunters have a lot of archetype built around board control and just overall mid-range and aggro style decks, right? Not necessarily too much late game, except for, of course, there's always going to be some exceptions. You can look at all kinds of different things. They got some great Diablo 3 builds. I definitely use this website for Diablo 3 builds when I do play Diablo 3. It tells you, if it's higher tier, mid tier, or lower tier. It If you look at the Diablo 3 builds, it tells you like a few different versions of them. It gives you the skills and the runes that you want to put in there. It gives you a whole massive gear setup. You can click on the reading further down here. Gear, gems, and paragon points. Tells you all the best gear that you want. It gives you a whole rundown of why it's good. It's very detailed and very beneficial. So if you're playing Diablo 3, use icy-veins. It's a huge, great resource. icy-veins.com. You can see it up there in the URL bar. So icy-veins, it covers those two games. It also covers all the other games. If you're interested in StarCraft 2, I have not played StarCraft 2 much in years, but I used to play it quite a bit. I've played a lot of World of Warcraft, but I'm currently unsubscribed. It's just too kind of time consuming. I don't have the time right now. So icy-veins is a great resource, but since this video is going on for quite a bit, I want to move on to my next resource, which is Hearthstone, or Hearthstone, however you want to pronounce it. Now, Hearthstone is great. I love this website, particularly for building decks. So what you want to do is, of course, there's different tabs up here. You can mess around with all the different options, but I go to decks. I go to the class that I want, Hunter, because I love me some Hunter, right? Who doesn't love a Hunter? Well, a lot of you probably hate him, but I love to play Hunter. Okay. Now what you do is you can look specifically for, well, I like playing Standard, so I'm going to switch it to Standard. I guess if it's Wild, you don't really have to, filter it into Wild, because it'll include all the Standard decks as well, ideally, right? But I only play Standard at the moment, so I'm going to switch it to Standard. I'm also going to switch it to the most recent patch, the Kobolds patch. Then I'm going to filter to add that filter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here. You can sort it by a bunch of different things. Obviously, class isn't going to do you any good because we only have Hunter selected. If you wanted to do more than one class, you could just highlight these classes or deselect them. What I like to do is sort it by rating. So I click on rating, let it load. It shows you plus 437, so that means 437 people have basically upvoted it, given it a plus. Legend 1 Face Hunter. Let's take a look at it. It gives you a whole card list on the side here. It gives you a whole intro, a whole explanation. Now, some dude wrote this. This is all community written. This isn't written by some like professional who's hired to do this. This is a bunch of people like me who are doing this for free, who are just doing it for the fun of it and the love of the game, and to share and showcase their decks online for other people to use. You have the option to put these little spoilers. That just means, you know, it saves you some room, or saves the author some room, so there's not too much clutter. You just click them to open them up. It breaks down how you can counter each card. And again, this is just how this particular author set up their description of their deck. This one's really long. It's not necessarily always this long. Some of them have no description and just have the card list. But this guy put a lot of detail into it. That's probably why he's currently the top rated deck on the website. You can see down here a bunch of comments. People very often will do YouTube videos showcasing the decks that are put onto this website. People talk about card replacements, ask advice, all kinds of things. 1 out of 6 losses, so cool. Hit their face hard and often. So this guy's giving him advice instead of being, you know, sarcastic and annoying like the first guy was. He's actually being nice and trying to help him out. So, you know, typical Blizzard community, right? Next thing that you can do is you can view deck string. All you do is you copy and paste this. You would copy that, right click to copy it. You can also do Control-C to copy it. Then when you open up Hearthstone, I'm not going to do it in this particular video because I'm still working on my Hearthstone layout. When you open up Hearthstone, once it's copied into your clipboard by copying it like I just showed you, and you create a new deck, it'll say like, oh, we see that there's a deck in your clipboard. Would you like to copy it now? And it'll put that deck into your current deck slot that you're creating. It'll show you the cards that you don't have, show potential replacements for them, and you can always just pull them out and put whatever you want in. So it's great. It's an awesome website if you play Hearthstone. I highly recommend this one. It has been a little bit slow on the servers in the past, but it looks like it's a little bit better now. I'm sure they've got all kinds of guides for kobolds. They talk about the expansions and all kinds of other cool stuff in their tabs up here, but I mostly just use this website for decks, whereas I use icy-veins a lot more for strategy and things like that. Alright, so lastly, if you want to take a look at one of my favorite Diablo 3 YouTubers, this guy Riker is great. He's one of the few people who, really has a passion for this game still, puts a lot of time and effort into showcasing different builds and things like that. And if you play Diablo 3, I currently don't play, but I have played it a lot in the past with my buddies, and I probably will in the future. If you play Diablo 3, this guy's very helpful. I haven't watched his videos in a while, but I do recall him being one of the best, one of the most helpful Diablo 3 players, or YouTubers rather, that's still around. Because, let's face it, Diablo 3 is pretty much past its prime. I'm not going to say it's a dead game. It's never a dead game if people are still playing the game, right? Obviously, there's people still playing the game if there's YouTubers with, 200, 300,000 views on them. So, if you're interested in Diablo 3, this guy would be my recommendation for a resource. Alrighty. So, the last thing is, if you look back at Hearthstone, if you look at Hearthstone, they have this Innkeeper app that you can download, or it's more like a program, and it used to basically do the job of what are now deck strings. If we go back to decks and stuff, right, you could copy that deck string like we did earlier. Before this was implemented, Innkeeper would do its job. It would allow you to import decks from Hearthstone, the website, or Hearthstone, the website, into Hearthstone directly. Now, it also had another job, which was to show your card list on the right side of your screen there. And if you see YouTubers stream or record their Hearthstone matches, you'll often see that they have a full card list on the right side of their screen. That's probably through Innkeeper or a similar program. So it's another program that's very helpful through this Hearthstone website. And that is it for my video tonight. So that was kind of my resources informational video. I know it was really long and probably not so exciting, but I think it'll help you guys out. Feel free to skip around. If you have anything that you think I left out, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you to everybody who has taken the time to comment, to subscribe, to like my videos. I really appreciate my friends taking the time to look into that, and my students who have taken the time to look at it as well, and everybody else who's found me on YouTube randomly. So everybody have a good night, have a good day, whatever time it is for you, and I'll catch you next time.